go to lunch with my friend and she's like, oh, I'm not gonna eat anything. I'm on Ozempic. And I was like, yeah, everyone's on Ozempic. And she goes, I'm nauseous. And I'm like, really? And I go, I'm kind of nauseous. And then she's like, are you on Ozempic? I said, no, I'm not on Ozempic. And then I'm like, oh, I'm on semaglutide. She's like, that's Ozempic. So I was on it for, I think, a week. I realized that's what was making me nauseous. But yeah, the whole town is on Ozempic. My doctor had given it to me a while ago and said, oh, if you ever want to lose a couple pounds in a week, this is what it is. But I didn't make the connection that Ozempic and semaglutide were the same thing. I'm not asking that question to the doctor, frankly, you know what I mean? My sister's like, what's Ozempic? And I was like, don't worry about it. Don't pollute yourself. She's like, my doctor would say, there's no way he would give that to me. I'm like, well, come to Los Angeles. You can get it probably at the 7-Eleven.
In the new lawsuit, a woman says she lost 150 pounds, but claims the manufacturers failed to adequately warn about the risk of gastroparesis, a condition in which the movement of food out of the stomach slows or stops.
Ozempic has exploded in popularity as both a diabetes and a weight loss drug, but now it's at the center of a legal blowback kind of situation. More than 1,800 lawsuits have been filed over adverse side effects, with the liability estimated at more than $2 billion.
Good morning, Rihanna.
Good morning to you, George. The slimming side effects of diabetes drugs Ozempic and Mounjaro have made them very popular for weight loss. But now there's a new legal battle claiming they could also have a very dangerous side effect. This morning, the manufacturers of Ozempic and Mounjaro, the diabetes drugs popular for aiding in weight loss, are facing a lawsuit. Demand for Ozempic and Mounjaro exploded as people documented their success stories using the drugs, which are approved to treat type 2 diabetes, but can also be prescribed off-label for weight loss.
Now to a Sunrise Health alert. They've been touted as wonder drugs, changing the lives of millions across the globe. Around 2% of Australians are now taking weight loss medications like Ozempic, and that number is likely to rise as the government moves to add them to the PBS.
But fresh research from Deakin University has led to calls for exercise to be built into prescriptions, warning the miracle shots could wreak havoc on the health of millions of Aussies. And for more, Ken Griffin, Oz Active CEO, joins us live in the studio this morning. Ken, we know how popular these drugs have now become, but this research outlines the potential dangers of not exercising whilst you're using them. Walk us through that.
So what we know is that these drugs can be really great if you're using them for weight loss. The challenge is that because of how they work, it means that if you're not using weight-bearing exercise as part of your program, you're going to actually not just lose fat, you're actually going to lose muscle, which is going to leave you weaker and frailer. It's also going to have an impact on your bones, so you're going to have weaker bones as well.
I just left the doctor's office. I went to get a checkup because I've been off of Ozempic for 2 months now, and I just wanted to see if my body was in better condition, if there were any permanent damages. Kind of in shock right now because I wasn't expecting this. But I guess Ozempic can cause bone density loss, and I didn't think that that would happen to me because I was only on it for a year. But I have significant bone loss. I have osteoporosis and osteopenia, so that I don't know, there's like several of them that I have. I wasn't expecting that, but that's what happens if you use Ozempic for weight loss and you lose too much weight.
I go to lunch with my friend and she's like, oh, I'm not gonna eat anything. I'm on Ozempic. And I was like, yeah, everyone's on Ozempic.
She has not been officially diagnosed with the condition.
Her problems have been so severe that she's been to the emergency room multiple times, including last weekend.
ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton says so-called stomach paralysis has been seen in isolated cases, but has not been seen in large studies.
It is absolutely brutal. Patients often come in with severe dehydration and electrolyte abnormalities, and many have their symptoms are so difficult to control that they have to be admitted to the hospital.
The drugs come with clear warnings about side effects. effects like nausea and vomiting, and a warning about a delay in gastric emptying is on the label. And the drug makers say the medication has been extensively studied. Novo Nordisk's maker of Ozempic saying gastrointestinal events are well-known side effects, adding the majority are mild to moderate and typically only occur in a short duration. Eli Lilly, maker of Mounjaro, tells ABC News we actively engage in monitoring and reporting safety information for all our medicines. Now, this comes amid a new report that many employers are actually cutting off insurance coverage for similar weight loss drugs, which can cost more than $1,300 a month. They say it's straining employer-funded health care plans. So we'll see if this affects the popularity of the drugs.
Show me the GLP-1 drug makers, please. Jeffries says the weight loss craze could be a really good thing for the airlines. They say with all these people losing weight, airlines stand to save $580 million a year in fuel costs. Lighter planes, more fuel efficient. Sounds like a stretch to me.
It's my favorite story of the day.
A stretch, okay. New research shows that people using GLP-1 weight loss drugs spend more money on food at restaurants. Look who's here, celebrity chef Andrew Gruel joining us. That makes no sense to me. Don't these drugs make people less hungry?
Yeah, they make them less hungry, but it's all about budgeting those calories, right? So essentially, people are saying, okay, I'm going to be eating a lot less at fast food, and when I do go out to eat, I'm going to spend that money the right way, or I'm going to spend it in a more luxurious way. So people are eating less at fast food restaurants, but then spending more at full service.
Dollars. Our legal expert, Whitney Traylor, is here to break this down. So let's talk first about the claims against Ozempic.
Yeah, so we went back to school, so all these 1L students that just started law school, you're going to be learning about this stuff. This is a civil tort is what we're dealing with. So this is product liability, complex civil litigation, mass tort liability. And essentially they're saying that, hey, you marketed this drug and you downplayed, they're claiming that they downplayed the potential harm that it would cause, and it's causing these very severe side effects. And so people are now bringing these lawsuits. There's a bunch of, if you go online, you'll see a bunch of law firms just highlighting this case in particular. And actually it was over 1,800, but as of this morning, I think it's 2,100. So there's been another 300 cases just in the last week.
So it's grown. Tell the story. It wasn't meant to be funny. People find it funny. But a friend of mine who's a very smart guy, very, very rich, very powerful man actually, but he was very fat. And he took the fat, I call it the fat drug. I won't give you which one. It was Ozempic. I won't tell you that. And he went to London on one of his many business trips. It's all he does is business. He can't walk across the street, but he's a great businessman. And he said, President.
They needed to outsmart DPP-4. The breakthrough came from a creature most people have never even heard of, the Gila monster. In the deserts, there is a venomous lizard that eats only a few times a year. A researcher named Dr. John Eng discovered its venom contained a molecule called exendin-4, described in endocrinology in 1992. Exendin-4 acts like GLP-1, binds the same receptor, but doesn't break down quickly. It doesn't get sliced apart by DPP-4.
Of weaker bones as well. And so what we want to do is make sure everyone who's considering using these is getting the full benefits by making sure they don't have health issues later on in life.
Okay, so for anyone who's on it at the moment, what does that exercise prescription look like? What should a week look like in terms of how much exercise they should be doing?
So what the research tells us is we should be seeing someone 2 to 3 times a week doing weight-bearing exercise. And what our call to action really is for anyone looking at these is that they should be just as familiar with a personal trainer or the team down at the local gym who can actually help them have the right exercise for them to make them feel exercise safely but get the benefits of the medicine without the downsides of the weaker muscles and those weaker bones.
Okay, so that weight-bearing exercise for about, like, how many times a week and for how long?
Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week is what the research is telling us at the moment. You don't have to be at a gym, but what we do think is that if you are starting out, you want someone who's going to get you a program that is actually going to be right for you to make sure you're exercising safely and getting those full benefits.
drugs.
We're still learning so much about all these drugs. Ken, thanks for your time this morning.
I said, what? He used to call me Donnie. Now he calls me President. So I said, you've come a long way. He goes, but I have a problem. What's your problem? In New York, I pay $1,300 for this drug. Now, this means nothing to him. This is like a penny out of your wallet. The guy's worth hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. He said, and in London, sir, I pay just a fraction of that. I said, what are you paying? $87. I said, well, is it the same drug? I knew exactly what he was getting at because it bothered me for a long time. He said, it's the exact same drug. And because of his wealth and his business smarts, he had it checked. It was made in the same plant by the same company. It's identical. And here I pay $87, and in New York I pay $1,300. So it was too much to bear, because after I told him that the drug does not work on him, because I saw him recently, he's actually fatter than ever, I said, the drug is not working on you. You're going to have to go to something else. But it does work on a lot of people. And he said, thanks.
Rapidly. How are the damages decided? Is it individually based? Do they look at the side effects? Like, how does that even get decided on?
Yeah, well, that's why we have a jury system. And so the jury actually looks at that, and they will decide a number of different factors. So,
finer dining restaurants.
What changes have you made to your menus because of GLP-1 drugs?
Cutting out the carbs, the empty carbs. We've made changes on the menu in regards to alcohol because people are drinking a lot less, so we're having less inventory and maybe doing more drinks out of less supply, right? Instead of just having them sit on the shelves. But most importantly, it's about introducing proteins into a lot of your sides that otherwise would be those empty carbs. So we're using some of those lower cost proteins to kind of braise off pork butt, shoulder, chuck steak, etc., to work into some of the sides so that you get a higher protein plate overall, but you can use a smaller portion.
Is it that noticeable?
It is that noticeable.
It's there. I mean, you can see this.
Yeah. And the reason I know is that, so whenever I'm in the restaurant, I work the dish pit, right? Because I can see everything from the dish pit. It's like the cockpit of the plane. I'm diving for suds. And I see all the plates that come back. We do our own hand-cut fries in the restaurant. It's one of our specialties. And for years, you'd come back with the plate licked between fries, malt vinegar, and ketchup. And now they're coming back with fries left on the plate. That never happened. At first, I yelled at the kitchen. I'm like, did you change the recipe? What's wrong with this? But it's really just that people are eating less fries. So now we can decrease our portion size, and nobody's really going to be upset about that.
Can you make more money?
Well, that's the great question. So that's the problem.
It's the best question.
Because people make their money on the empty carbs, right? On the big buns that make the sandwiches look gargantuan, on the breads, especially the breads that they give you when you sit down, that gets you going. You buy a few drinks, right? They're buying less drinks. So the areas in which you traditionally make your money in restaurants are the areas that people are cutting out. So you really got to be creative with your proteins to make sure you can make your margins on them.
There's a number of terrible side effects. Some people are going blind. They're having intestinal issues. Their digestive issues, just some really severe type of issues. And the jury will come back and decide and say, hey, we think this is what it's worth. And so you have to calculate both the physical damage, the emotional distress, the loss of consortium. Then if people can't go to work, their lost wages, if they can't provide for their family. So it's going to be different for different folks depending on the severity of their
Does it matter
issue.
how many people join the lawsuit? I mean, I've always wondered about that.
Right.
Great point.
Sometimes you get like $25. Like sometimes you'll get something from the phone company.
Yep.
You're due $20. You know.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the ultimate settlement might be millions or even billions. But you make a good distinction. That's really a class action lawsuit where there's going to be one settlement.
Which is different.
This is different. This is called multi-district litigation, which is similar in that a lot of the cases are being consolidated actually in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, and then they're going to go through sort of a one discovery process. So they're going to have a bunch of experts and they're going to figure out a lot of that, but then the cases can go forward individually. So there still will be a number of folks who have individual claims, and some of these damages they're saying are permanent, and so they're estimating 300, 500 grand. Some will be worth less. The people who lost their vision, I think they're saying over $1 million. So it's going to depend
how do you
on
put
each
a
case.
number on your vision, or any of these cases, right?
That's
it's going
a
to
great
depend
point.
on that individual, but how does it work where if there's somebody that's affected right now, how do they know that they're even eligible?
Right, so one, they'll have to have had the prescription, then they'll have to have had some of these symptoms, which, as I said, they're very serious: intestinal blockage, persistent vomiting and dehydration, gallbladder inflammation, pancreatitis, kidney injury, all these type of things. So you'll have to go, and you're going to have some doctor support. These are expert, intense lawsuits, right? And so you have those issues, and then if you're within the statute of limitations, which is going to depend on what state you're in, but generally that's 1 to 3 years, then you'll be a candidate. And if you go, if you just Google this lawsuit, if some of you are actually thinking about it, like I said, there's so many law firms that take it, and they have a frequently asked questions page, so the information is out there, very easy to obtain.
So is there a time frame, and then when does this thing move forward? What's the next step?
I don't think we're going to see any cases actually go to trial before 2026. They're in the discovery phase now. Okay. Yes, as my mom likes to say, the wheels of justice turn slowly.
Yeah, I do.
But they do turn. Most of these kind of cases settle, but of course Ozempic is fighting it. They're saying, hey, we didn't promise these things. They're calling it puffery. That's a legal term of art where it's like, this is the greatest car you'll ever drive. They don't actually mean that. That's what's called puffing or puffery. So they're gonna fight it. They're gonna fight with the experts. It will still likely settle because it's going to be so expensive to go forward, and there's going to be so many litigants. But there's something called the single recovery principle. So if you have negative impacts 15 years from now, you can't keep suing over and over. So that's up to your lawyer and the doctors to say, hey, I think you're going to have these long-term effects. So you get one opportunity, one bite at the apple, and now is your time. So probably we'll start seeing cases go to trial next year if they go, but I think there's a high probability of settlement.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Well, they've made a lot of money, so
true.
If they're looking at $2 billion in damages,
yes. I think they're good for something.
So.
Thank you.
Right.
Protein.
Is there a particular kind of drink, liquor, beer, wine, that people are drinking less of, and that's noticeable?
Yeah, it's beer and wine. We're actually seeing drink a lot more of is tequila and straight tequilas.
There's no carbs in tequila.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. So you're seeing a lot of these boutique tequilas, and we're doing things with just like tequila on ice and a splash of fruit juice or seltzer water, and then you push what seltzer water it is based on the boutique salt in the water. It's very interesting.